This is Ancient Faith Today with Father Tom Soroka, a weekly live call-in show addressing the issues of our day from a distinctly Orthodox perspective. You can join the conversation by calling in at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Father Tom is the priest at St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and welcomes guests from across the globe to discuss important topics of interest. Here's Father Tom.
Welcome to Ancient Faith Today Live. This is Father Tom Soroka, and I'm so glad that you're with us this evening. We'll be taking your calls in a bit at 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. Matushka Trudy will be answering your calls, so please make sure to turn the show volume off before you come on air. Now, to participate online, you can send us a text message to 412-206-5012. That's right. Just pick up your smartphone, send us a text message, a question or a comment to 412-206-5012. You can also go to the AFM Facebook and YouTube pages where the show is being live streamed right now. And as always, you can send us an email to aft@ancientfaith.com. So let's get started. I have to admit that Americans are often guilty of forgetting that there's an entire world outside of the United States. And frankly, some of the greatest experiences that I've ever had in my entire life have been outside of my home country of the United States. Meeting people of other countries, encountering other cultures, different food, music, art, and languages. This is an incredibly enriching and humbling experience. But what I also love about traveling to another country, and this may seem a little selfish, is that I love finding an Orthodox church in that other country. It makes me realize that what's important to me is far beyond what I know about my own language or culture or national origin. The fact that I can go somewhere else and meet people that share a common faith and understanding and experience of the Orthodox Christian faith is very comforting to me. Even if we are divided in certain ways, we are one in Christ as Orthodox Christian. And this is important to remind especially our youth and young adults. We're part of an ancient and worldwide communion. Literally hundreds of millions of Orthodox Christians live throughout the entire world, and we are all members of one Orthodox Church, one body of Christ. However, sadly, I also must admit that right now, as we are having this conversation, there are areas in the world filled with Orthodox Christians that are undergoing serious military conflict. And in at least one area, Orthodox Christians are fighting one another. Besides the obvious violent outcomes of war, the effects actually go far beyond the battlefield. There are psychological effects, especially felt among our young people, of living in a country that's undergoing war, and it devastates them not just now, but in the future. For instance, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, that can often lead to depression and anxiety and addictions. Their schooling and their social interactions are often interrupted, including their religious life. War also causes resentment, anger, and hatred for other people. So instead of appreciating other cultures and countries, we can fall into demonizing other cultures and peoples. With conflict and animosity seemingly at a fever pitch all across the world, often fanned by online rhetoric and opinion, especially where young people gather together virtually. We need to ensure that our youth and young adults meet Orthodox Christians from other areas of the world, ones with whom they share a common faith, so that they can share their experiences and their thoughts with one another. And our guests tonight are working hard to ensure that there's an organization to make those relationships and events happen. So tonight I'm happy to welcome two guests, Archdeacon Joseph Matusiak, who holds an MDiv from St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary, has held various leadership positions at major institutions throughout the world, including the Orthodox Church in America, St. Vladimir's Seminary, the Orthodox Christians Mission Center, and Syndesmos, the World Fellowship of Orthodox Youth. And today he finds himself in Poland, and I think it's very, very early in the morning where he is. And Charles Agelat. Charles is a prominent lawyer and leader within the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese, but Charles's accomplishments reach literally to the ends of the world. He's the founder of such incredible organizations as IOCC, Focus North America, and the Orthodox Christian Leadership Initiative, and so many others. Father Deacon Joseph and Charles, welcome to Ancient Faith Today.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thanks, Father Tom.
Thank you, Father
Nice
Tom.
to hear you. So glad that you're here. Nice to be with you too, Charles. Actually, Charles, I don't know if you remember, but you were my first guest. And I remember that show with great fondness, and we talked about very important issues of Orthodox unity. So welcome back to the show.
Wow, that must have been 15, 20 years ago, no?
It seems like it, but it was only 3. So, all right. So anyway, I'd love to hear all about the organization, but also how this started, what the purpose is, certain things that are going on, and tell us about the gatherings that are happening. So, Archdeacon Joseph, can you tell us about this organization that is facilitating Orthodox young people from around the world to meet together?
Sure. Thanks, Father Tom. I'd be really happy to. So, I'll start off like this. I was blessed in my life, as you said in your introduction. You've had this experience of being able to travel around the world to meet, to experience Orthodoxy in other contexts and cultures. I had that experience from a very young age. My parents led pilgrimages to the Soviet Union in the late 70s and the 80s. And that experience that they had, and my father himself was a youth worker, opened up many possibilities for me to like I said, experience Orthodoxy in other cultures throughout the world, and later on opened me up to experience youth work and participating in youth events throughout the world, meeting peers, making great friends throughout the world, and something that really that experience really encouraged me in my faith. Taking me outside of my parish, seeing that my Orthodox faith was something larger than what I had experienced up to that point in my life, and that there are young people just like me, that are struggling with the same challenges that I had as a young person, and meeting those peers around the world was so encouraging to me, and I've made some of my best friends, that I have in my life, in some of these experiences of traveling and meeting Orthodoxy in different cultures. And at that time, when I was young, in my teenage years, the Orthodox Church in America each year organized pilgrimages of young people to Russia, to Poland, to Belarus, and to Ukraine. Again, those were really amazing experiences. And later on, participated through the Orthodox Church in America's Youth Department in an organization called Syndesmos, the World Fellowship of Orthodox Youth, which is a very organization that started in the 1950s to bring Orthodox young people together throughout the world. A couple years ago, I started to realize as my own kids were getting older that these experiences and opportunities didn't seem to exist anymore. You know, things happen with organizations. They have their up moments and down moments, because of leadership or lack of leadership. And myself, together with some of my friends that I've made throughout the world, were wondering, where are those opportunities for our young people, for our children, who are now growing up to get together. And we realized that they really didn't exist anymore. And so we thought, well, maybe we can do something about that. Maybe we could search for some way to do that. And so that kind of began the road to creating now what is become an organization. We started as just a few of us who had met, a long time ago as students ourselves, through different organizations like Syndesmos, different opportunities that, like I said, the Orthodox Church in America, together with the Orthodox Church of Poland, created. And we came together to say, what can we do? What should we do? And we decided to simply put on an event. We got advice and we sought advice from many different people, from hierarchs, from youth leaders, from youth, from clergy, lay leaders throughout the world. And the advice that we received was, put on an event, invite young people to that event, organize it well, make it interesting and engaging, and see where the Holy Spirit leads. And so that's what we did last summer here in Poland. We decided to create an international youth event, something akin to an OCF college conference, which some of your listeners might be familiar with.
Yeah.
We put this event on here in Poland. It was a 1-week event. We invited young people from throughout the world to come. We had engaging speakers and interesting topics, and what we found, what we experienced was we were able to gather 85 young people from 22 different countries, 4 continents. I think 12 of the autocephalous churches. We were able to gather them here in Poland for a wonderful week of prayer, of fellowship, of engagement, of support of each other. And from that, we decided, the young people decided they wanted more of that.
Deacon Joseph,
yeah.
Archdeacon Joseph, let me interrupt you there, because I want to ask you, that must have been very challenging when you were doing this in Poland, and Poland was already in great upheaval, receiving so many refugees. So how did that actually work? And did it hinder your efforts at all?
Well, indeed. And we began our efforts really thinking about this whole project really began in the summer of 2020. And it was a slow effort to get to, even the idea of organizing the event. But yes, indeed, when we really started full speed around January 2022 in terms of our organizing, and then the war happened. We here in Poland are right on the border. Where we're organizing the event is just 300 miles from the Polish-Ukrainian border. And, our first thought, that first week of the war was, can we still do this? Is it safe to do this? Are people going to want to come to Poland, from other countries, from abroad? Are people going to feel safe? Are we going to be safe? Is the war going to spill over? So there were a lot of questions. We knew, working up until that point, that what we were doing was so important that if we had to move it to another location, if it had to be somewhere else, we were not going to be deterred, because like you said in your introduction, and like we heard in the program before us, this need for us to build community, for our young people to meet each other and to engage and worship together in fellowship was just so important. Before the war, that was important. It's even more important now, to be sure.
Yeah,
and so,
indeed.
So indeed, it was a challenge, and there were moments, and that we thought, maybe we're crazy for doing this, but in fact, we were always encouraged by Metropolitan Salva of the Orthodox Church here in Poland, who blessed us to do this work, to keep going. And if God blesses it, if it's for the right purpose, the Holy Spirit will make it happen. And it happened, and it worked. And we found it was much needed, and we continue to work.
So, Charles, tell me about your role in all of this, and in terms of what do you hope the outcomes are for this particular movement?
Okay. Well, first, I'd like to say that I have a lot of respect for Archdeacon Joseph Matusiak. We started with a small sponsorship and encouraging others to help him put on the conference, but it was a tremendous success. I mean, to get 85 young adults from 22 countries and 12 autocephalous churches is evidence of the great demand. And as with him in his earlier life, with me, I went to various gatherings in Geneva, Switzerland, with friends who had been from the hierarchy, the movement in Lebanon, and were founders, as he knows, of Syndesmos. So that led to greater support working with them for both the Antiochian encounter and hopefully the second Supraśl, the international conference. And I think, some of the things he said, and I mean, in my life, I've always found that bringing people together is blessed by God in ways that we can't even perceive. I know that when I used to go to those meetings in Geneva, I couldn't believe it. There was world orthodoxy. There were people from Ethiopia. There were people from Finland. I didn't know any of that. And so it helped me to understand the Catholicity of the church. And as I was growing in the faith, that became a very important element. And to bring people together to discuss common problems, I think, is crucial.
Yeah, I find it interesting that, as you said, when you were younger, there were these movements, and Archdeacon Joseph, you said you participated in Syndesmos, and yet in these past decade or so, there has been a kind of lull in these movements. And I know this is purely speculation, but I wonder if you might comment why you think that is the case. Is it because our communication is so quick now, and maybe people feel that we don't need to meet together because, we can send emails, or we can Instagram one another, or Twitter, or whatever it is, and we don't really need to meet together? Or is it something more mundane, like the sort of the natural slowdown of organizations, or sort of a lack of leadership or something like that? Why do you think that happened? And what can you put into place that would ensure that this new movement would be perpetuated?
Well, I'm not sure that we can ever put anything into place to account for what might happen. I think, to answer that first, though, in any organization, I think what you have to put in place is the idea from the very beginning of some kind of succession planning, right? And you have to plan for those moments in the future where myself, when I'm not young anymore, I'm doing this now because I have some energy and I have my kids, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that in a few years I need to pass this on to somebody else. I need to inspire other people to want to do this. So, but you can never nothing's foolproof or fail safe for sure. I think why there was a downturn in these kind of events and in these organizations is probably a mix of both the mundane and just the way the world goes in communication these days. I think Syndesmos began in the 1950s and until its really high points in the late 1990s, it was a bit of a roller coaster, of activity, to be sure. I think also, the church has changed very much, especially here in Europe, but worldwide, to be sure. Syndesmos really had, and this kind of international youth work really had its high points in the late 80s and the 1990s, when many of the world's Orthodox churches were coming out of decades of Soviet rule and of communism. And they, as they came out of that slumber of education, really, they looked to the West, especially. They looked to North America, to the Orthodox Church in America, to the Antiochian Archdiocese. They looked to other churches to help them, grow, to help them regain, a sense of education of youth. And I think they went looking to each other. The Church of Russia, the Church of Romania, and Serbia, and Poland. They were all a bit handicapped in a way, hampered, and they needed one another. I think as the churches grew and got kind of, if we can say, their legs under them, then they started to just, I don't want to say turn inward, but had their own work to do, and those connections started to become less important, right? And so, so I think this is, times changed. There was, and the needs changed, especially for youth. There was a time where youth movements, were what brought youth together. In the United States, we had, at least within the Orthodox Church in America, you had FROC, or FOCA, the Fellowship of Orthodox Christians in America. There were other, often pointed to big events that happened in the 1970s in Pittsburgh. I think it was CEYOLA, Ciola, where all the Orthodox youth, where all the Orthodox youth came together. I mean, there's a famous picture of thousands of youth in a stadium in Pittsburgh coming together. And, young people at that time wanted to participate in organizations, and that was normal for them because there was scouting and like we were hearing in the program before, there was community, right? Young people, I think, still want to participate in the church, but they find new ways to participate. They're not so interested in being members of an organization. So Syndesmos in the past was a world fellowship of youth organizations. Those don't really exist, and maybe young people don't, that's not what they need. That's not the venue or the vehicle they need anymore to participate in the church. They like to plug into things one-on-one, in a way. I often hear young people say, like, I want to do something, I want to participate, but I don't have time to become part of an organization that has a structure and a president and a vice president and, bylaws, all these sorts of things, right? They want to get to action right away, right? And so what we're doing, kind of gets rid of all of that. We're a simple organization. There's just without a heavy administrative structure, and we're really focused on action, doing things, bringing people together. I think one thing I want to note, and I want to share, I should have said at the very beginning, one thing that encouraged us in our work, and what encouraged Syndesmos at the very beginning of its work in the late 1940s, there was a Greek theologian, Nikos Nisiotis, who in 1949, after having participated actually in a event of the World Council of Churches, where up until that time it was the World Council of Churches, was one of the only places where Orthodox from throughout the world encountered each other and met. He said, it's a famous quote. He said, "What are we, the Orthodox, going to do to avoid our sickness, namely our indifference to one another?" Right? I saw that quote a few years ago, and I said, that was true in 1949, and it's maybe even more true now.
Indeed.
And it might be true in 30 years again. My job, what we're called to do now, with the help of Charles and other people, is to answer that question. But it's also then to prepare young people to answer that question in 30 years.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, let's remind our listeners, 1-855-AF-RADIO, that's 1-855-237-2346. Is this something that you would be interested in? Would you be interested in participating and meeting Orthodox Christians from other countries, other cultures, traveling to their areas. We're going to hear about the upcoming event that will be happening in 2023, but we also want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about the world of Orthodoxy? We seem at this time so disconnected from one another. The irony, of course, being is that we have all of these devices at our fingertips. We can be connected instantly. We are using that technology right now, and yet somehow we are missing the intimacy of real connection with one another. So you can give us a call or send us a text message to 412-206-5012. That's 412-206-5012. Charles, you were about to say something, and I apologize. I interrupted you.
No problem. I wanted to add at least two things to the very good things that Archdeacon Joseph did. And the first one goes to why I paid my respects to him in my first comment. And that is, I think the reason after things slowed down and disintegrated was we didn't have leadership, people with vision and the ability to implement. And that's what Archdeacon Matusiak brought. And I must tell you, when I first started helping him, I didn't know that he could pull it off. And therefore, I gave a small sponsorship and tried to encourage others to also help. But when I have seen him work and the tremendous success that he had, then I have gotten more and more behind him. And that led to the two conferences that he will tell you about. And I just want to say a word, perhaps. I mean, is this a good time, Archdeacon, to
Please
tell them about the two?
Absolutely.
Well, those of you who know me know that my work has always been pan-Orthodox, bringing everybody together from all of the jurisdictions. But in this case, as an experiment, I suggested to Archdeacon Joseph that we precede the international conference with an Antiochian youth young adult encounter the week before the international conference. Why? Because, one, it's an experiment that both the Archdeacon and I hope can be expanded upon, and we're trying to unite through the laity and clergy people on this side of the Atlantic with people on the other side of the Atlantic. I think there's a great need and a great desire for that. Secondly, we felt the need I have in suggesting we have this Antiochian young adulter to have laity engaged with and supportive of the hierarchs overseas. Our beloved patriarch was originally, we were going to have both these conferences in Lebanon, but things deteriorated, and he suggested we use Lebanon for a future year. But I think it's important that they understand on the other side of the Atlantic that we're proud to be part of the Antiochian family in our case, just as we're proud to have our own self-governance under our official constitution. But to be part of the Antiochian family means to be supportive in every other way, not just the earthquake relief, but projects over there, and recognizing that, for example, in Lebanon, it's terrible. 80% of the people, 80% under the poverty line. As you may have mentioned, I started Focus North America, and it's bad in this country. We have 40 million people living under the poverty line out of 331 million, but that's 12%. Over there, it's 80%. So I think it's really important to provide the kind of support that these conferences and other actions that Archdeacon Joseph will tell you about, and I can also elaborate on, to be bringing people together.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, guys, for setting that up. What we're going to do is we're going to take a short break right now, and when we come back, we already have some text messages and messages on YouTube. I see your comments, folks. We're going to get to those in a second because we're going to talk about the specifics. We're going to talk about what, where, when, and how people can get involved. You are listening to Ancient Faith Today. We're talking about the world of Orthodox youth and bringing them together in a time of strife. We're talking with Archdeacon Joseph Matusiak and Charles Agelat, and we will be right back.
Father Tom will be back in a moment. In the meantime, the lines are open at 855-237-2346. Don't go away.
Jesus' last words to his disciples were, "Go and make disciples of all the nations." Unfortunately, many parishes are struggling to follow this commandment. In Reclaiming the Great Commission, Father Evan Armatas offers a roadmap to help us get back on track. Relying on his 20 years of parish experience, Holy Scripture, and insights from research and his visits with churches across the U.S., he discusses how you and your community can implement changes that will transform, revitalize, and renew your parish. You'll learn how to diagnose and remove the barriers you face, deal with resistance to change, define what a healthy parish looks like, lead with purpose, and create a parish health plan. Written for clergy, council members, ministry leaders, small groups, and all committed parishioners, this book will help any church in its journey to reclaim the Great Commission. Purchase it today at store.ancientfaith.com.
We're back with Ancient Faith Today and Father Tom Soroka. Give us a call at 855-237-2346. Here once again is Father Tom.
Welcome back. We're talking with Archdeacon Joseph Matusiak and Charles Agelat about a recently formed youth movement that is bringing Orthodox youth together from all over the world. All right, gentlemen, we've been talking about the concept and why this is so important, and we're all in agreement that this is really important. I know you've already had some experience at this already. You know, while you were talking, I was thinking about, and I apologize, I'm not very prepared on this, but the Roman Catholics have a very, very large world youth event where, you know, tens of thousands of people come to that. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could have as many people as want to come gather together and have a divine liturgy with bishops from all over the world and youth from all over the world singing and being around the Lord's table together in a stadium or something like that? Wouldn't that be incredible? I could just imagine that would be unbelievable. All right, let's talk about what is happening now. So the events that you had previously, I think last year's was in Poland. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Tell us, walk us through the event. What was it called? Where was it held? And what kind of things? And I think you said you had about 80 or so young adults from across the world. Tell us what they did over how many days?
So the event was called simply Supraśl 2022, a world gathering of Orthodox youth. Again, when we started out, we didn't seek to start an organization, but just have an event. So we decided to call the event the name of the city in which it was taking place, Supraśl, the year 2022, and it was a gathering of Orthodox youth. Supraśl is a town in eastern Poland that is home to a 15th century monastery. It's also a famous monastery in the Orthodox world. It's the second, at one time it was the second most important monastery in this part of the world after the Kiev-Pechersk Lavra in Kiev, which is actually in the news a lot these days. So it's a very venerable monastery, but more importantly, it's always been a place, this small village near the Belarusian border, has always been a place where international meetings have taken place. The monastery itself was always populated by monks from different countries. In the 1980s and 90s, it was a place where Orthodox young people were coming together. And so we decided to have the event there, partly because of that history, but also because the monastery has a really fantastic academy and conference center, a very modern conference center with everything you need to put on an excellent event. So we chose the event to be there. It gives us the spiritual underpinnings, plus everything you need. It has basketball and volleyball, and there's kayaking next to the monastery, and a place for bonfires, and just kind of the perfect place. The event itself was a 6-day event that had workshops. Obviously, had worship and prayer was at the backbone of everything we did. We had workshops. We had 5 different themed tracks: mission work, youth work, orthodoxy and creativity, liturgical music, and others. We had speakers from Orthodox Christian Mission Center. We had 2 missionaries who are currently missionaries in Albania come and lead us in discussions and workshops on what it means to be a missionary. We had the Orthodox Peace Fellowship and its director, Nicholas Soy. Orthodox Peace Fellowship is based in the United States. Came and did workshops on conflict resolution and peace building. And we had a professor from University of Sweden in Stockholm, St. Ignatius College, actually, Dr. Davor Jatlo, who spoke to us about being our call as Christians to be creative and creative beings. So it was really a kind of a smorgasbord, if we can say, of different workshops. We had excursions to many of the wonderful Orthodox sites here in Eastern Poland. But the main thing was, coming together, worshiping together, and simply meeting each other and being together. I often say when organizing events, it's not really important what the workshops are. It's important that we have, good leaders, interesting leaders, and who know how to bring young people together. And everything else takes care of itself, really. And that's what we saw this year. And so, so
I'm interested. I'm interested to know, were there youth from Ukraine at the event in Supraśl?
Yes, there were youth from Ukraine, but Ukrainians who have now found themselves as refugees in Poland or other places in Western Europe. It was challenging. Obviously, it's impossible for males to leave Ukraine. It's possible for females to leave. Men between the ages of 18 and 65, I believe, are not allowed to leave the country. But we did reach out to refugee communities. Of course, we have over 1 million here in Poland ourselves. And in Supraśl itself, at the academy, which has accommodation for around 100 people, there are refugees living there, which we interacted with. But so, yes, there were Ukrainians participating in the event last year.
Interesting. And by the way, we're getting some questions about the spelling, so we want to make sure everybody can spell that. It's S as in Sam, UPRAS as in Sam, L.org.
That's correct.
All right, so you can go there, and there's also a link on that page to the Facebook and Instagram pages, and you'll see some pictures there. You can go to the 2022 site, which is supraśl2022.org, and see some of the information that's there. All right, so Father Deacon, I have a question, and obviously, Charles, if you want to chime in here. I told the questioner that it was just a little bit off topic, but I think it might be interesting to kind of answer this. So the person that is writing basically said, I like the idea of getting youth involved with services. Why are the services so long, and is that not a detractor to the youth? So I'm interested to know, in this 6-day event, what role did the liturgical services play? And did you find that these young people find services to be too long and a detractor?
No, certainly not. I think it's so the role that the service played was, like I said, the backbone of what we did coming together. To come together to worship in different languages. It's amazing. I think we can't understand, how amazing it is. And like you said in your introduction, Father Tom, that we travel around the world, we go to different churches, you seek out an Orthodox church, and you immediately feel at home. Right? No matter the language, no matter some small variations of liturgics possibly, but you feel at home because it's recognizable, because we're all doing the same thing every weekend, week out, throughout the Orthodox world. And to come together and experience that, but more than experience it, revel in it, right? And you don't want to leave,
right?
And
right.
So you want more of it. And in fact, I would say that maybe sometimes the workshops and the fun stuff, kayaking or whatever else it was, got in the way,
right.
Of just being in church. And so, we are the worship schedule for the event is morning and evening prayers, and then we had a beautiful liturgy at midnight on the second to the last day. And then we had a wonderful agape meal, afterwards, very Paschal in nature, feeling, having that midnight liturgy and coming together, singing in different languages. I posted, if anybody wants to see in the chat on the YouTube page there, I posted a link to a video that we made of all of the different groups, language groups at least, that were there singing the Ageni Patheni in different languages, in Arabic, in Greek, in English, in French, and Romanian, and you can feel there, just the desire to want to pray together as long as possible. And so, I think when, simply.
No,
they weren't long. They weren't long enough. They weren't long enough.
Right. I think that, and I don't want to denigrate the questioner about that, but I do think it is worth noting that Orthodox, and this has been my experience. So, for instance, right now we have the Orthodox Volunteer Corps in Pittsburgh, and so those 6 young people are at our church when they're not at their home-based church, which is St. Moses in Pittsburgh. They're at our church in McKees Rocks, because these people love the church and they love to worship. And it's actually, as a priest, it's very inspiring to see that young people want more. They want it. They want this sort of authenticity. And so I'm wondering what and please, either of you answer this. What were the lessons that you learned from this particular gathering? What kind of things are on the minds of our Orthodox young people? And how is the church going to facilitate that? How is the church, did they bring up any issues that they feel the church should be answering or the bishops should be answering? Or was it just sort of light fellowship?
It wasn't light fellowship. I think the first thing that they brought up is they simply want more opportunity to gather together. They want somebody to create for them, but at the same time, they want that somebody, as they said actually in our wrap-up session, we want you old people to get out of the way, was I think the quote from one person. But and that's what we want to do. We want to build for them and create for them venues and places to meet. That's what they asked for. I think it was shocking for a lot of them to come together. It was shocking in obviously a positive way, but a little bit like a deer in the headlights. So you're coming together, from 22 countries and all these different cultures, and it was amazing. I think it'll take another few meetings, maybe of some of these same people, for them to start working together and dreaming, of what they can do together. It was a first start, right? But at the same time, there was a strong desire to act in the world in a real and deliberative and directed way, not to just talk. It wasn't enough to just come together, but how can we act in the world? How can we take this excitement that we've experienced and share that with others. And what is our responsibility, even in the world? It was not by accident, but not by design, that the middle day of our event was the feast of Saint Maria of Paris, Mother Maria Skoptsova, who and on that day we dedicated that middle day to her. We had a lecture of a deacon from Yale University, Deacon Mark Rosem, who is spending a lot of doing a THM thesis at St. Vladimir Seminary right now on Mother Maria's work in the world, which was called Orthodox Action, which in some ways was very much a forerunner to things like Focus North America. And we also, in that evening, we witnessed a play that was created to celebrate her life and her work. And that was a really inspiring moment. And we have clips of that on our YouTube page and in our social media, and I encourage people to go and look. But that, more than anything, really encouraged people to see how can we act. And if you don't mind, and sorry, I don't mean to run on.
Please.
But one thing that this gets to, and I want to as we get to the end, definitely talk about what the actual events are that are happening this coming summer. But one thing this has gotten to is, and that I've begun to see, is the great responsibility that we have as North Americans to the rest of the world. I'm often reminded, and I was reminded during this event, of the words of Father Alexander Schmemann in his very famous Thanksgiving prayer, his Thanksgiving sermon. One of those lines that says, we thank you, God, for this country where we've been able to worship in freedom. We often decry the situation of Orthodoxy in America, of lack of unity, what have you. And obviously unity is something to work towards. But I don't think, it takes stepping outside of that, right? Like I've done. I moved, to Poland 2 years ago, and I often look back to all the riches that we have, things like Focus North America, things like OCF, like the Orthodox Volunteer Corps, things like that do not exist, around the world. We decry our lack of unity, but I can say, give an example. Last month here in Warsaw, we did another event where we had 350 young people come together from 15 countries throughout the world. But one example, we had 2 groups from the Netherlands come from different churches, from the same cities. They did not know each other. One from one church, one from another ethnic church, and they simply did not know each other, that they existed, right? We have a great responsibility to share all these great things that we've created, in North America, with the youth, especially here. And so what I've seen and my excitement is to answer the question again, is this action that young people want to do, reaching out to the world, to the homeless, to the needy, to refugees. But we also have that great responsibility to share with them, the Lebanese young people who came to the event, they have a great need. They feel isolated, right, in the Middle East.
Right.
They feel isolated in Lebanon. They do really great things through their youth movement in Lebanon, but they don't have contact outside, and they want that contact. They need it. They need experiences, other ideas of how to act. And so that's why Charles, came up with the idea of, if I can get to then what our programs are for this year. That's why Charles, suggested this idea of this Antiochian, what we're calling the Antiochian Youth Encounter. So generally our programs are international, pan-Orthodox, if you will, but we also want to be a resource to churches. And we, the leadership of our organization, have lots of experience and background in the church, and we want to be a resource. And so in this case, we are being a resource to the Antiochian Patriarchate, which finds, itself as the Patriarchate throughout the world, but a family not always connected with each other, not always, encountering each other. And so this year, with the blessing of Patriarch John, and at the encouragement, and it was his idea, Charles's idea, to bring together 8 young people from the United States and 8 young people from Lebanon and Syria, simply to encounter each other, to meet, to get to know each other, to work together. One aspect of that event will be for them to create projects together, because, like you said, it's not enough just to kind of, pardon the old reference, maybe kumbaya and have a good time with each other and fellowship. That's important, but it has to take the next step and create something together. And so that's the one event that we're doing this year for the Antiochian Patriarchate, is bringing young people from different parts of the Patriarchate together to meet and encounter each other.
And is there a website for that where people can learn more about it?
There is. It's supraśl.org. So that's, again, suprasl.org/Antiochian. That's we are accepting applications for the next couple weeks for that event, and we really encourage people to apply. We already have a number of great applications. There are only 8 spots, and I can say that because of the thanks to Charles and the Orthodox Vision Foundation, that is an event that the Orthodox Vision Foundation is covering all the expenses for that event, airfare, plus participation in that event. And so
again,
that it's, yeah.
So if people are interested, what are the ages, by the way, that that you are looking for in terms of young people to attend?
So 18 to 30. We're looking for for the Antiochian program. We're looking for young people between the ages of 18 and 30 that have maybe leadership, some kind of leadership within their parish, either experience or feel a call to leadership within their church. And to say that event initially was to happen in Lebanon, in Balamand, at the monastery and university in Balamand. As Charles said, the situation in Lebanon is not perfect at the moment.
Yeah.
And so we moved that event here to Poland. At first, we thought maybe that's a bit strange, but in fact, our Lebanese partner said it's even better when you want 2 groups a bit unknown to each other to encounter each other. No better way to make that happen than to put them in a third place.
Kind of neutral territory.
Yeah, exactly.
Charles, what do you hope is the outcome of the Antiochian Young Adult Encounter, August 6th through 12th, 2023 in Supraśl, Poland?
And the first,
Charles, are you there? There you go.
Yes.
Please, yes.
We've made a condition of all the free airfare and so forth, that in response, and we will help train them during that week, each participant of the 16 as an experiment need to go back to their home districts or overseas for either of them and do a social action project that they will have developed under guidance at Supraśl. And secondly, to build the bonds and the knowledge of the different churches, that they must visit 3 to 4 churches within a certain time period in their region and let them know what the experience was like. And I think Archdeacon Joseph is going to try to arrange that some of their Antiochian bishops, perhaps our new metropolitan, who knows, 5 months from now, might be able to do that, and some of the bishops from there. So we want to urge everyone to apply who's Antiochian, and then we want to expand it to all of the other jurisdictions in future years. But we need to have, I think, at least 3 candidates for each of the 8 positions, even though only one will be selected. And so we want to encourage people to apply and apply right away. Is that's on that website you said, right? supraśl.org/Antiochian. Is that right, Archdeacon?
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yeah. And one other thing that I can say, so the other event that we're doing then follows right after this event, which is again the World Gathering of Orthodox Youth. So again, that event was also to have taken place in Balamand in Lebanon, but we'll do it again here in Poland at the monastery of the Annunciation in Supraśl, Poland, from the let's say the 15th to the 22nd of August. In fact, just yesterday, I secured that date with the bishop. Everything is a bit late this year because of the challenges. We had been planning since August to do the event in Lebanon, and now we've had to pivot. And so in the next few days on our website, we'll have all the information about our World Gathering of Orthodox Youth, which one feature of that this year I think was really exciting. And we'll participate in a pilgrimage. The Orthodox Church in Poland each year has a 5-day walking pilgrimage to one of its monasteries, where typically around 3,000 people, young people mostly, but not only, walk on pilgrimage. We'll participate in 3 days of that pilgrimage. But I think that's something that we don't have experience with for sure in North America, walking pilgrimages to monasteries. And I think it will be something really exciting and new and meaningful for our young people in North America.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And how many do you just have a certain number of spots for the larger world gathering?
Yeah, we're very much bound by simply the accommodation at the event space at the Supraśl Academy, which can house 85 young people. So last year we received 120 applications for our event, and we were able to host 85. I guarantee you we'll receive more this year. Like I said, the commenter posted, would it be great? And you mentioned, would it be great for thousands of Orthodox young people to get together, and that would be awesome. And actually, in February, this past February here in Warsaw, we had the world celebration of the World Day of Orthodox Youth, where we had 350 youth from around the world gathered.
Wow.
And that was amazing. And next year that will be.
I think our dream, though, for the long run is that we may double and triple. We'll find the accommodations or do shorter events, don't you think?
We have to, and there's a balance here that we always have to take care of, though, is we want to grow our events. We want to have those experiences where hundreds, if not thousands, of young people come together. We also want to host events where people can meet very intimately and build those bonds and networks and start to work together. So as we grow, who knows where this goes? I think this. I didn't expect that we would be where we are now, and so who knows where we'll be next year. But we have to dream. As my metropolitan here in Poland always says, you have to not only dream, but dream a bit crazy with big ideas, knowing that that the Holy Spirit guides us, and helps us. And so, in the future, hopefully, we'll have a number of different types of events, happening, so we'll see. But we invite people. This is a very worthy event, and I have to call out, if you don't mind, just for a second, and then we're going to end with giving everybody the web addresses and so forth and the dates so that they have all that information. I want to highlight here Charles's work and his family through the Orthodox Vision Foundation. Charles, tell us a little bit about why you started the Orthodox Vision Foundation and what your hope is to use this foundation for. What are your goals with the Orthodox Vision Foundation?
The goals are to help Orthodoxy to be visible around the world, and especially in America, and to help people to transform their lives and transform the culture around them, as Father Schmemann used to say. God has blessed it tremendously and made more and more resources available. And so I'm hoping we try to leverage the funds of the organization because they're God's funds. And we have, for example, made numerous matches of 5 figures, and agencies have responded by getting even more than the match. And so the work that's being done is very blessed, and we're very grateful to God for it. And we hope it'll make ultimately a really big difference in Orthodoxy here and overseas.
Well, you are certainly doing that with the Supraśl organization, and everyone can go to the website there and go to suprasl.org And of course, the Antiochian youth should go there /Antiochian and look up that information. They're taking applications right now. That event is going to be August 6th through 12th, 2023 in Supraśl, Poland. And then the World Youth Gathering is going to be the following week. So all of that information is on the web. And also I want to point out you can look at pictures and videos on their Facebook page. So if you go to the website, you can find their Facebook presence, Instagram presence there. But also, I'm going to read something when we close the program from a little mini site called Voices of Stones. And these are the words of young people themselves. Really beautiful, worth taking a look at. All right. Any last messages, Archdeacon Joseph and Charles? Anything else you want to say before we close tonight?
I just I encourage the young people listening, parents listening, to first realize the great gift we have of Orthodoxy in North America, and to encourage them to share that with the rest of the world, which is really, as you said at the beginning, going through conflict and strife. But one young woman said to me, a Ukrainian refugee said to me the other day, who I actually interviewed for Voices of Stone, she said, a month ago, if I would have asked her what she hopes for in the future, she would hope that the war ended. What she hopes for now is that Orthodoxy comes together, and we can always bear war as long as the Orthodox Church is united and comes together. And so I encourage people to become a part of what we're doing, share your experiences, come and gain new experiences, and help us bring the Orthodox world together.
Very good. All right.
I would add that hopefully your listeners would pray that God blesses these conferences and especially blesses the unity of his church.
A very worthy prayer. Archdeacon Joseph Matusiak and Charles Agelat, thank you so much for all you do. Go to supraśl.org, suprasl.org. Learn more about this growing organization of bringing young people from throughout the Orthodox world together. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing everything. Best wishes and God's blessings for all of your work.
Thank you, Father Tom.
All right. Before I share a few final thoughts, I want to offer my sincere thanks to Archdeacon Joseph and to Charles for joining us tonight. Thanks to Matuszka Trudy for engineering the program, to our show production assistant, Melissa Graff, for her work behind the scenes, for everybody that's listening in, and for those who will be listening. I had mentioned the Voices of Stones, which is providing a glimpse into the lives of ordinary youths. And I was reading the stories here, and there was one that I felt was really, really touching, and that was from Anna in Tirana, Albania. It's short, and I just hope that you will listen to this and be inspired. Although I was baptized at a very young age, my parents never gave me any religious education or Orthodox spirituality, so I found my way back to church during my teenage years. That time when people start asking themselves existential questions. Before that, I rarely went to church. When I did do it, it was with my grandmothers, and I only prayed a few prayers I knew. Since the time I found God, which at that time I desperately longed for, I started living a spiritual life, which I never thought of running away from. There have been many ups and downs since then, but having a close connection with my spiritual father has been a beacon of light every time. His persistence on having a regular prayer rule has helped me stay on track even when I didn't feel like praying or maintaining a spiritual life. Bottom line, I have lived many years away from God, so I know how it is to live with and without him. One who has tasted both would never go back to the latter. And that's our show for tonight. Remember to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/ancientfaithtoday. Share out our program after that's posted. Give us your feedback and contact us with any ideas or topics that you might want to hear about. Join us next Tuesday evening for another edition of Ancient Faith Today. Good night, everybody.